Yeah.
Recording in progress.
I'm sitting in a car if anybody's...
Are you giving the 9:15 share also tonight, or that's canceled?
No, I canceled that. Look how many people are on now. It's the winter vacation. I don't know where everybody is,
Okay,
but
I'm gonna go with me immediately. What? I'm here. I don't know.
What?
No, I misquoted Perky Elvis. What's the one that I'm here? Everyone's here.
yeah, Money Khan, I call Khan.
Yeah, Khan, right there.
All right. Okay, I guess might as well start. Yeah, let me know somebody if it gets schwach. Let me know. Okay, so we got up to Samach Beis and Beis, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the bottom. You didn't want to continue. You said it gets long.
Yeah. So it was a whole sugya. Yeah. Okay, so Tanya, 4 lines up from the bottom. Right, so Tanya, Acherim Oimrim, Hiktim Mulim La Arelim. So Acherim has a different Acherim is Rameir, right? Usually. Right? So Hiktim Mulim La Arelim. Again, we're talking about making the korban pesach for having people that have a bris and people that don't have a bris in mind. So we said with a combination, we said if it's a combination of both, then it's mutter. Right, so now Acherim says no. Hiktim mulim larelim. If in his das, when he's shechting the korban pesach, he has the people with the milas first and then arelim, it's kosher. But if he had arelim in mind and then mulim, arelim lemulim possible. But if there's arelim and then mulim, then it's possible. Right? So I'm going to ask, Mishna mulim larelim the kosher the kula arlabin and melika. Why are you saying that if the milim come first? That's kosher because you need equalOr. You need to have the whole everybody involved in the korban pesach. And if you don't, then it's kosher. So arelim nami equalOr bin and melika. So then arelim, as long as you have arelim and mulim in there, it's going to be the same. It's not fully arelim, so the korban's kosher. What's the difference? What the order is? Now we're on tamid aleph. So lema kastavi acherim ein la shichita ela b'soif. So let's say Acherim must hold. There's a Machlokes in Chulin where at what point the shichita is considered finished. Meaning you have to, we're talking about seconds here, maybe even less. But does the shichita start from when you're starting to cut the what's it called? Cut on the veshet? Or until the end of the shichita, once the shichita is done. So it must be, let's say Acherim hold Ein la shichita ela b'soif. Right, so shechita is only at the end. Look at the Rava. Like Rava said, it's still a machlokes. Meaning the machlokes that we had 3 blot ago between Rameh and Rabbi Yossi, right, where somebody says 2 different dinim, 2 different things, and he's sicer each other. He's sicer that the things that he says are sicer each other. Mayor says that it only goes with the first thing that comes out of his mouth, not the second. And so we're saying that we have this machlokes. So l'chara that should apply over here too when he goes with, if you hold it goes with the second thing that the person said. So arelim and mulim go first, or the opposite. Hilkach hiktim mulim arelim, mulim chayle arelim lechayle. Therefore, if you put the mulim first, then it's chal on the mulim and it's not chal on the arelim because he goes with the first thing. It's a machlokes, but he would go with the first thing that came out of his mouth, which is mulim. Right? Hiktim arelim lemulin. If he's makdim arelim to the mulin, arelim chayli mulin lechayli, then arelim is not chayli. So amarava lo'elam kasavi acherim yeshna l'shchita mitchil v'atzav. No, we're going to say really acherim hold that there's shchita from the beginning till the end. Right? Meaning once you start with the shchita, even though it's not finished, it's a problem. Not a problem, but that's considered all part of shchita. So if that's the case, so then he had mulim and arelim in mind the whole time. He had in mind that it's going to be for people with a bris and people without a bris, bein lemulin, bein la'arelim, whether it's for mulin or la'arelim. And he came out of his mouth that he's doing the korban pesach on behalf of the people without the bris. And and he wasn't able to say for mulin achenigmar shchita ba'arelim until the shchita was done, only with the arelim. Yeah, we got the case. Basically, he was in the middle of shechting, and he had in mind right when he started the shchita that it's going to be for both the mulin and arelim, but he only verbalized arelim, and before he could even verbalize mulim, his shchita was over. So now l'chayr he only had in mind. He had in mind both, but he's only able to verbalize for the arelim. So what's the story? You don't need to have your mouth. You don't need to have your mouth and your heart equal. So therefore, it's not gonna. It's gonna be for both. You need piv and liba shavim, right? And therefore it's going to be kosher. Again, Reb Meir holds you don't need liba piv or liba shavim. So therefore, the only thing that came out of his mouth, the bottom line is what came out of his mouth is arelim. He was not able to say mulim. So he's stuck. And Rabbanan say no, it was in his head. So therefore he did for arelim and mulim, and therefore it should be mutter. Right? Yeah, so that's an interesting thing, whether the person, that whole Machlokes, whether piv and liba have to be equal. I mean, it's hopefully that's not the way it works by kavana, right? That your piv and your heart have to be equal, because I don't even know what would be going on in our tefillah if a piv and liba weren't it had to be shoving. But okay, we're not going down that road. Yeah. So I think says ksavar Rameir, leibin and piv and liba shoving. Does Rameir hold? What?
Where are you? Sorry.
Oh, I'm now.
He's in South Florida.
About 12 lines down.
From
Rameir, second one on the line. Yeah.
Samach Gimel Aleph.
Samach Gimel Aleph around 12 lines down, 13 lines down.
Okay.
Yeah, you have it? Because Rameir.
Yeah.
So now again, so we're saying the Machlokes Rameir and the Rabbanan is whether you need the heart and the mouth to be equal. So Gemara says, Rameir loibin and piv liba shavin, and does Rameir not hold that you need your heart and your mouth to be equal? What am I going to ask you? Let's say somebody's separated. Imagine this is a common case. A guy has in his head that he's giving truma, and when it comes out of his mouth is meiser or truma. He says it's meiser, and he said truma. Or he says he's making a neder she'eni nichnas abayizeh. I'm not going to this house, but by mistake he said to the wrong house. She'eni nena lazeh. He says I'm not going to provide any benefit to this person. By mistake he said lazeh. So he said, oh, I'm not giving any hanot to Reuven. So they said okay, but by mistake comes out Shimon. Lo yamar klum. He says nothing. It has to be exactly the way his heart and his mind, right? It has to be equal. So you see clearly Rameir holds piv and liba have to be shovin. So now we change our mind from this. All right. So by the way, this can come in the practical when you're giving tzedakah, right? So when you have in mind to tzedakah, let's say a guy is collecting around the Beis Hamikdash doing chazar sashatz, and you have in your head, okay, I'm going to give him $1. You reach for the dollar in your pocket, right? And then the guy leaves. He makes a left turn and he doesn't come by you. Now, what's with that $1? Right? So in your heart, you had in mind to give it to him. Most poskim say that you mechuyev to give it to him. Right? Because that was what's going on in your heart. That was in your heart. That's why the poskim say that you should always have a t'nai in your head that your tzedakah does not have a din tzedakah until you actually hand it over. Like this, you don't have any of these kavana issues, right? Until you give anything over, that's not it's not anything. Okay, so anyway, so we slug it up because Rameir clearly holds piv and liba have to be equal. Elam Rabaya. Reisha Damar Simon Rishon Lemolin. The Reisha is talking about a case where this guy's a real lumdisha person. He says the Simon Rishon, meaning let's say the Kana, he's shechting for the people that have brisim. The Simon Sheni and the Veshet, right, is for it was for the arelim. The besimin sheni nami psichi be mulin, and because he says that the simin sheni is even for arelim, right? So he did two things. The simin rishon was for mulin, right? Meaning you have the windpipe. What's it called? The windpipe and the kon and the veshet is
Esophagus.
esophagus
Trachea and the esophagus.
Trachea and the esophagus. Okay, so whichever one he's shechting first, he has in mind the first one's arelim, right? And then the first one's mulim, and then the second one is even for arelim. The besimin sheni nami psichi be mulin, because he did have in mind for the second one also mulim. So seifa damar simin rishon arelim. The seifa is simin rishon for arelim, and simin sheni the mulim. Sheni is for mulim. The simin rishon halai psichi be mulin, but because in this case the simin rishon had nothing to do with people that had a bris. That's the case. Meaning, the second case is the simin rishon is arelim, the simin sheni was mulim. Nobody. Each one was exclusive, right? So the simin rishon had no mulin involved with it. So Rameh or the tamid, the Amar Falgun. What? Somebody say something? No? Okay, but Rameh or the tamid, the Amar Falgun b'chatzi mater. He says that you can have pigul even through half of a mater. Meaning a mater is one of the avodas, shichita, Halacha, zorek, Kabbalah, right? So you can have it half in mind, and there's going to be pigul. You can't. You have to have it. You have to have it in mind the entire time. You can't just say, "Oh, half of my shichita, I'm having in mind that I'm not going to eat this korban at the proper time," right? So it's not. So if you hold that by piguls, you're going to hold the same thing when you have half. What do you call it again? The kon and the veshet. We'll call it the kon and the veshet. Yeah, the kon and veshet for the mila, and for those that had brisim, and the veshet for those that didn't have brisim. So then it's going to also be the rabbanon say, "Ein mefaglim b'chatzi mate," right? So therefore it's kosher because you can't do half and half. It's going to be considered whole. So that's a pshat in that Machlokes. Okay, so then let's see the Mishna, yeah? Shochet is a pesach ala chametz. Let's say you shechted the korban pesach, but you had chametz with you. Over b'loisa say you're over on a loisa say.
In your pocket? Right? I'm saying with you on you.
So we're gonna see in the Gemara how close it has to be to you, right? How close? Does it mean if you have it in your house, right? Does that mean, right? So we'll see in the Gemara. But if you do this, then you're over on a loisa say. Yehuda over afa tamid. Even if you just shechted the korban tamid, and you still had chametz, you're still over. Now, obviously, you're over well, the question is, you're over on chametz. It's not yet Pesach, right? So it's not Pesach yet. So therefore, you're not really over on Bal Yirah, Bal Yimotza, right? But this is a separate isser of shechting the korban pesach and or the korban tamid while you had chametz. So Reb Shimon noimer ha pesach ba'arba asar. Reb Shimon says the pesach ba'arba asar l'shmai chayev. If you shech the korban pesach l'shmai, then you chayev, since it's a kosher korban. Therefore you chayev on the isser. Shalai l'shmai potter. But if you shech the korban pesach shalai l'shmai, then you're going to be potter because your korban was. You can't call that shechting a korban pesach with chametz if the korban is possible. But every other korban, bein lishman, bein shalai lishman, potter, whether you shecht it lishma or not, it's going to be potter. This is Reb Shimon, he's chaylik on the Tanakama, right? Because Reb Shimon is saying that it goes for all korbanos, right? But since it's not going to go for all korbanos during Erev Pesach, because korbanos and Erev Pesach you're not allowed to bring. So Mamela, if you shecht other korbanos and Erev Pesach, you're not going to be chayiv. With a mayid, right? But if you shecht it on Yom Tif, then l'shmai potter. If you shecht it l'shmai for the korban Pesach, then you're potter, right? But shalai l'shmai chayiv. But if you shecht it shalai l'shmai, you're chayiv. Why? Because if it's shalai l'shma, then it's going to become a shlomim, right? If it becomes a shlomim, then you're chayiv because it's a kosher korban. V'shakol es v'achim bein l'shma and bein shalai l'shma chayiv. In other korbanos, whether it's lishma, whether it's shalai lishma, you chayiv. Chutz min achatas sheshechtu shalai lishma. Except for a chatas, if you shechtu shalai lishma, because a chatas is possible if you shechtu shalai lishma. So again, the side is basically if the korban is kosher, you're going to be over on, and you have chametz while you brought this korban, then you're going to be over on the isser. If your korban is puzzle, then you're not over on the isser because the korban is a puzzle of korban. So zok the Gemara. Amrav Shimon lag shloilam eine chayiv achei chametz l'shochet or l'zorek. You're not chayiv until the chametz is owned by the person who shechted it, or the person who threw the blood. So those are the first two options. Now we're on tamid base. Or it belongs to one of the bnei chabura. Yeah, so it has to belong to either the shochet, the zorek, or any of the bnei chabura. And it has to be with him in the Beis Hamikdash. Can you imagine this guy's shechting the korban pesach, and he has chametz with him after chatzos in the Beis Hamikdash? I don't know how he got through all the security that with chametz, but okay, that's what happened. Even if he doesn't have the chametz with him in the azara, right? As long as he owns it, so it doesn't have to be in his pocket. According to the Tanakama, it has to be even in his pocket. Rabbi Yochanan is saying no, even if it's not in his pocket, it's fine. I mean, it's not fine, whatever you over. Now, it's interesting, Machlokes Rashi Tosfos here. Who's chayiv? Everybody in the chabura is chayiv, or just the guy that shechted it? Right? So Tosfos says, so from Rashi, it's mashma that the whole bnei chabura is going to be chayiv. If even one guy has the chametz.
What are they chayiv?
What?
What are they chayiv?
A lav. It's a lav.
So even a lav.
Yeah.
And their pesach is not good, or it is good?
The pesach is good. The pesach, if it's no good, then they would be potter. It's an interesting thing. The pesach's good, and one guy in the chabura, according to Rashi, one guy in the chabura has chametz, and everybody's over on this lav, right? But Tosfos disagrees. Tosfos at the top, Tosfos says, "I'm reading the loy mechayev bal hachametz ella hashochet v'hazorek." The bal hachametz is not going to be chayev. Only the shochet and the zorek. The loy sishchat omar rachmana. It says loy sishchat, don't shecht it. It's a lav shein by ma'aser. Give be chayev. What the guy who has, what the other people do. So not Tosfos is not even mechayev anybody. Even the bal hachametz he's not chayev. Only the guy, only the shochet or the zorek, because that's what it says, right? Fine. Okay, so now so what's this machlokes?
What does that mean? But a lav shem b'maisa, you're not chayiv. What do you mean? You're over the lav.
No, but you're over, but you're not chayiv malchus.
Well, that's what I was asking. What are they? What the other one's going to get malchus? That's what I was asking.
The shochet and the zorek should get malchus. Everybody else, what they do, he's sitting at home, right? He sends the korban pesach, or he's sitting in the Beis Hamikdash. He sends the korban. How's he supposed to know that the guy next to him in the chabura has chametz? So according to Tosfos, right? According to Tosfos, in a chanami, only the shochet and the zorek are going to be chayiv. That's it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So that you can have some guy who has chametz. He's the one that's doing the bad thing, but he's not even chayiv according to Tosfos. Right? The shochet and the zorek are. You better know who your friends are. That's the bottom line. You better know who to include into the chabura. Right? You better make sure that guy sells his chametz before he comes into the chabura. Right? So the shaila is based. So now the machlokes is. So we have whether you have to have the chametz with you in the azara, or is it just if you have chametz? So it says the pasuk says al, right? Lo sishchat al. What is it called again? Lo sishchat al chametz. What does it mean? Don't shecht it on chametz. Does it mean that the korban has to be on top of the chametz? Right? What does al chametz mean? So whether al means close, right? What would be the Machlokes? The Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Savar. Al besamach. Al means close. It has to be mamish right next to it. Rabbi Yochanan Savar loy bein an al besamach. No, it doesn't need to be so close. As long as you have it, it's not meaning al is lav dafka. According to Rish Lakish, al is dafka, meaning it has to be with him. Rabbi Yochanan holds not. So if that's what the Machlokes is, they already argued in this one time. If somebody shechts a korban taida inside the Beis Hamikdash, but we know the lachme taida is a combination of 40 chalas, right, and a regular korban. So let's say he shechts the taida inside the Beis Hamikdash, but the chalas were not inside the Beis Hamikdash; they were outside the walls, like kiddush halechem. Then that means that the lechem from the lachme taida doesn't get kedusha, right? So my chutz l'chaim, and what does chutz l'chaim mean? Rabbi Yochanan Amar chutz l'chaim is Beis Pagi. That means outside the wall of Beis Pagi, which is the furthest point of Yerushalayim. Aval chutz l'chaim is hazara kaddish, but if it's outside the Beis Hamikdash, then it's still kaddish because that's close. V'lo be'inan al b'samach, and you don't need that the word al should be so close. Shimon ben Lakish Amar no, afilu chutz l'chaim is hazara like kaddish. Even if the lachme taida are outside the Beis Hamikdash, it's not kaddish. Alma be'inan al b'samach. So you see, you need al means that it has to be close, and if it's even close, but it's right outside the Beis Hamikdash, it's not going to be kaddish, the lachme taida. Right? Excuse me. So you see, they already have Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish already have this Machlokes. So that can't be. Ella basra safek kamifligi. They're having a Machlokes with hasra safek. Yeah, parents, I think you should take a makas, no? So if you give hasra, mi safek, meaning you warn a guy not to do an avera, but you have no idea if he's going to do it or not, right? So you have meaning you warn the guy. Make sure you don't have any chametz in your house, but you have no idea if he has chametz in his house or not, right? So meaning, is that considered a hasra enough to be mechayev him? Yeah. So if that's the Machlokes, so we also learned that Rabbi Yochanan already have a Machlokes of that too.
But isn't that by every hasra? You're giving him hasra, you don't know whether he's going to do it or not.
Oh, so you're very good. So that right, you don't know. How do you know? Right? Excellent question. Let's see.
Obviously, you give hasra and then they do it, and then they're chayev.
Right. So let's see the next case. If a guy makes a shvua that he's going to eat this loaf of bread today, and the day passed and he didn't eat it, they both say you don't get malchus. But why do they both say that? Why? They both agree that you don't get malchus. Don't get excited that they both agree, because they're going to disagree why they agree. Right? They're having a Machlokes why the Halacha should be. Rabbi Yochanan Amar ain't like it's a lav shein by ma'isa. It's a lav shein by ma'isa, right? The guy made a shvua, he's eating this loaf of bread today. Then he went to sleep for the whole day, so he didn't do a ma'isa. Right? It's a lav shein by ma'isa. V'chol lav shein by ma'isa ain't like an 11. It's a lav shein by ma'isa. You don't get malchus. Right? Aval hasra safek, shma hasra, but hasra safek, he would call it hasra. Right now, because when you warn the guy, when the guy says, "Oh, I'm going to eat this loaf of bread today," and you warn him and say, "Hey, you better make sure you eat that bread," you have no idea if he's going to eat it or not. Right? So because he holds hasra safek is shma hasra. Yeah. For Rabbi Shimon Lakish Amar, we'll get back to your question, David, in a minute. Rabbi Shimon Lakish Amar ain't like it. Shim Davale hasra safek, hasra safek lo shma hasra. It's hasra safek, and hasra safek is not hasra. Lav shein by ma'isa like it, but you do get malchus on lav shein by ma'isa, right? So that's the Machlokes, right? So look at the Tosfos hasra safek, the third Tosfos down. Yeah, so b'toich pirush hakuntris, we're skipping the Rashi. But b'toich pirush hakuntris mashma, the lo yavi hasra mishum kiven the lo yadinan lav hasrahi. Since we don't know, so that's not hasra. V'lo nihira l'rid the malanu im safek l'masra. Who cares if it's a safek if the person that's warning him knows? Elishei vadei the maisra. It should be vadei that the person was warned. The lo nin hasra ela lahafkin ben shaygin l'mezid. Only what's hasra? When you warn somebody about something, you're not afraid that he's I mean, you are afraid that he's doing it on purpose. You just want to tell him, by the way, if you do this, you're going to be over in case he's doing it b'shoigig. It's like a reminder. So what does it make a difference if the guy doesn't know about it? Lashon hakuntras nami, Lashon hakuntras nami yesh yashad hachi kamar. Kimin danan loy havi yedinan lav hasrohi. Right? Which since we don't know, it's not asro sheyachal ha-maisa like chikshana v'loy meshagig yisi. Because the guy could say, I am a shogig. Right? So basically, it seems like Tosfos doesn't like Rashi's pshat exactly what hasra safek is. So you're saying now, so now why isn't every hasra a hasra safek? Because you don't know if the guy's doing it, right? So I don't know. I think it would have to do with the dependent on is it dependent on the time factor? Let's say the guy picks up the knife and he's about to shech the animal and he has chametz. Is that also asra safek? Or is that already not? Because or the guy told you already had chametz, right? So I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah. So I don't. It's not a pashut. It's not a pashut thing exactly. I think from what I remember, we come out with this that if you hold hasra safek is not a hasra, then you really don't have too many cases of hasra. I think it's taka very rare to have these cases. You know what this comes up lemaisa in halacha lemaisa with lifnei iver shilas, right? So one of the tzadim, how can you be mesadik? How can somebody be mesadik kedushin by a not from couple, right? Because they're not going to keep taras mishpacha. So one of the coolers that they bring is because you have no idea if they're gonna be together. You have no idea. It could be it's assumption, but it's not b'shas ma'isa. It's not b'shas ma'isa that you're giving them the warning. And if you see that you're giving it, I mean, if you see a guy sitting in McDonald's and he asks you to pass him the hamburger, so then I mean you're sitting right there. It's pretty much a vada. But if it's way before that and you don't know for sure, so then there are shitas that I think it's shitas Rashi that it would be okay. Anyways, whatever it is. But that's a sugi when Beis Hashem we get to Shavuos. So, anyways, so now we had two options of what the Machlokes is between Machlokes and Yehuda. The first one was whether al is samach, and that
it's a non-from couple.
Yeah.
Let's say they have a baby, right? So you saw that they had relations. So then
let's say what?
I'm saying, let's say once they have a child, a non-from couple, how can you do the kedushin?
No, you still don't know if they're going to be. You have no idea if they're going to be together.
You see that they had a child together.
So what? But maybe they don't get along anymore. How do you know? Maybe they had their
maybe they had taxes.
No, but I'm saying based on that you could nullify the kedushin.
No, because you're not doing it but tonight. You gotta do it. We're just talking about it's lifnei iver.
It's kedas Moshe Yisrael, and it's not kedas Moshe Yisrael.
No, how do you know? How do you know?
I have no idea unless you were there.
How do you know? There are people who go to the mikveh. They're not from, or they mechal Shabbos, but they go to the mikveh. They eat
tafris.
They eat tafris, but they go to the mikveh.
Right.
But what's the shaila then?
I don't know. I didn't ask the shaila. I don't know.
No, the shaila is are you over lifnei iver from marrying off somebody who may not keep taras mishpacha? Right.
Same question when people sell beds. If you sell a queen size bed to a couple.
Okay. Yeah. I hear.
I think the shayla is if you only sell one bed. No?
Yeah.
Right. You could buy 2 queen size beds, It's right.
I remember asking him.
No, but you could also buy from two different. You could also buy from two different people.
You could buy.
Is that the same apply if I invite non from couple Friday night Shabbos Sudan? I'm afraid they might drive back. As soon as I invite them to.
And a chanami, that's also. But there, that's part of the heter that they say. You give them a place to sleep, and then it's not your issue.
I called up David Cohen once, like it is. He said Because if you offer them a place, then what happens? So if they drive back, it's there.
Right. And a Hanami, so I don't know.
It's like Jewish Airbnb.
Yeah. Okay, whatever it is, but that's when it comes up. So I need you guys to be quiet though, because I'm still. Yeah, I just drove the guys to the kids to the guitar center, so now they all came back in the car, so I have to have them behave a little bit. Anyway, so the first way to try to explain the Machlokes is whether al means samach. So we said we already had the Machlokes. So then we say, okay, maybe it's hasra safek, because you don't know if the guy has the chametz in his house or in whatever it is. So that's the Machlokes. We said we also learned that then. So now Amri loylam, a little bit more than halfway down. Amri loylam, ba'al b'samach kamifli. Really, they're having a Machlokes where al is b'samach. V'tzricha, and we need to say both Machlokes. And if ligulin chametz, if you'd say the only Machlokes by chametz, havamina, but who the ka'amar Rabbi Yochanan, l'obi in an al b'samach. There, maybe Rabbi Yochanan says you don't need al b'samach shem the iser hu, because that's iser. The chol hechet the iser, wherever the iser is, as the iser is. Havalinin mekadesh lechem, but be mekadesh the lechem lachmei toida like kaddish elabifnim. It's only kaddish if it's inside the Beis Hamikdash. So then Eimah Moedel Reb Shimon Melika should be in an al b'samach. Maybe Rabbi Yochanan will be Moedel to Rish Lakish that you need al b'samach. The isa gavai, because if it would be inside the Beis Hamikdash, kaddish, it's kaddish like kaddish. Right? If it's outside the base, inside the Beis Hamikdash, it's kaddish. If it's not, then it's not. It's no different than klisharis, meaning only the food or the korbanos that go inside the klisharis became hektish, and not the ones that don't. So then tzricha, therefore, you need both cases. That's one way. Now, what about the other way? Let's just say it by lachmei toida. You don't need by chametz. Mekadesh lechem, and if you're going to tell it to you by mekadesh lechem, bahach kamen of Shimon Lakish to be in an al b'samach. Maybe Rish Lakish holds you need al b'samach there, meaning that it should be mamish in the Beis Hamikdash with you, and even if it's just outside the Beis Hamikdash, it's not kaddish. The isa gavoy kaddish, iloi kaddish. If it's inside, it's kaddish, and if not, it's not kaddish. Avalinian chametz, papayim chametz, moedele Rabbi Yochanan delay being an al b'samach. You don't need al b'samach desirahu because it's an iser v'chol hechet the isa wherever it is. And who cares? It's iser. It's not. We're not talking about hektish. It doesn't have to be mamish in the Beis Hamikdash. Whatever your chametz is, your chametz is. So tzricha. So therefore, we need to have the machlokes of al b'samach by lachmei toida and by chametz together. Fine. Okay. So then a shtickle new sugya, right? It's not a new sugya, but a different shayla. B'amine Rav Yoshi, Rav Ami. Ein loy l'shochet. If the shochet doesn't have chametz, v'yesh loy le'echem b'nei chabura, and one of the b'nei chabura have it. Mao, what's the din? Right, so meaning till now we're talking about where the shochet has it, right? And so the question is everybody else going to be chayav? But here, what happens if the shochet doesn't have and one of the chabura has? Maus amalei miksiv loisishchat al chametzecha. Does it say don't shecht it on your chametz? It says loisishchat al chametz ksiv. Don't shecht it when somebody in the chabura has chametz. So that means that even if somebody in the chabura has it, then the shochet's going to be chayav. So if that's the case, then anybody, it says anybody in the world has chametz, and you shech the korban pesach, you're going to be chayav, right? So it says and then you don't leave it overnight. Only those that are going to be over on loyalin, meaning the people that are part of your chabura, those are the guys that you're going to be chayiv if you shech, but not stamp for everybody in the world. Yes, sir.
This will teach a lesson to the Yerushalmi. They'll probably hang around the Beis Hamikdash. I'll check you come pesach, check you come the same when they jump on you about everything but a kosher. They got a chabura, they got 10 chevra, and one or two of the guys has chametz.
Right. So you say you're right, and chanami. So you have to make sure you pick the they're not going to want to do it because they're afraid. Yeah, they're going to get scared that the guy has chametz. That's what you're saying. They're not going to do it. I hear. Yeah, very good. So therefore, the kohen who's maktir the chaylev, right, of the chametz, right? He's going to be an over and a because he's part of the Isser Valona Semurin, right? Even though it says al chametz, right? But we're going to learn out that Zrika is also part of it. Yeah. So therefore, meaning what's this case here? Yeah. It says Layalim Chalev Chagi, don't leave them over. So the kohen who's being maktir the Chalev. Yeah. So Rashi says he's bringing it b'shasta ketores. Yeah. So we're talking about a case where anybody anybody that was considered part of this korban pesach then nobody had chametz, but the guy who was makriv of it did have chametz. He's going to be over on the license since he's included, right? Meaning the kohen that burns the chaylev also has to make sure that he doesn't leave over any of the chametz. And meaning if once we're including anybody who's involved in over on lina, so then you have to involve that kohen too. Yeah. So Tanya Kavasei the Rapapa. A shochet is a pesach ala chametz. Over beloises. If you shech the korban pesach on chametz, you over on loises. Masai. When is this? When it belongs to the shochet or the zorek or the chabura. But if one person from the end of the world has it, that has nothing to do with you. And whether the shochet has it or whether, meaning not whether that. The shochet, the zorek, and the maktir are all going to be chayiv. But somebody does melika on a bird on Erev Pesach, ain't over but like klum. He's not over on anything. Why not? Yeah, because he's not supposed to really bring it. Yeah, so I'm sorry, no, because schechts, melika is not considered shichita, right? So okay, so the Gemara says, I'll ask you stira. Hashaychet is a pesach al chametz over below. So if you shech the korban pesach on chametz, you over on the loy. So Yehuda afa tamid. Even the tamid, so they told him, no, we only said it by Pesach. That's only when the chametz belongs to the shochet or the zorek or one of the chabura. If there's one guy at the end of the world, then he's not zakuk. But here it says echad shochet, echad zorek, echad melika. Right, melika is with the thumb. And the one who springs is chayev. If somebody does kamitza, right, he takes the handful of kamitza, ain't no ever b'leisa hamakter, and then hamakter say murin. The guy who's makter in murin ain't no ever b'leisa. He's not going to be over in b'leisa. Whatever it is, you see from this brisa very clearly that if somebody does melika, he is going to be chayev on if there's chametz, if he does it on Erev Pesach. And we just said that the melika is not because it's not considered shichita. And ketores also was a stira. Kasha melika, kasha ketores. It's a kasha from melika to melika and a kasha ketores. But the tamid, so the Gemara says, "Tikshi lach hi gufa." Why don't you ask this? We only said that the korban pesach. We said first. You said it's only for the korban pesach, right? And then you go and bring a bunch of different things. Melika has nothing to do with the korban pesach, so you bring a bunch of things that have nothing to do with the korban pesach. Elohavaha Reb Shimon, they're both Reb Shimon, right? And melika like kasha, and melika is not a kasha. Kan bar also kan b'chol shemay. One talking about on the 14th Erev Pesach, and one is talking about cholamayid. Right. So when it's on cholamayid, you're going to be chayiv. On Erev Pesach, you're not going to be chayiv because you're not supposed to. The korban's going to be possible. Reb Shimon, and they're both going with Reb Shimon. That's l'chayra. That's extra because we just said it. Haktora name like kasha. Haktora is also not a kasha. Tanoi, it's a Machlokes Tanoim. The ikut the makish haktora l'shchita. Some say there's a hekesh of being maktir to shchita. You come on to loy makish, and those that don't make a hekesh, and since there's no hekesh made, you can't compare the two, and therefore you wouldn't be chayiv. And that is the Machlokes. Okay, fine. Well, I might have to do a little early the covered parrots tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next Amud should get a lot easier. So So I think the hard part is a little we're already past that. What do you say?
Yaakov, who's the pesach from Williamsburg that you learned by?
There's a couple of them. Rav Harfinis and Rav Al.
Oh, okay.
Hello?
I got to ask.
What do you want to know?
Somebody wants to know where the organization wants to ask pesach. There's a certain organization that wants to go to somebody for pesach.
Right.
He's a big
What's
pesach
the problem?
in Shulchan Aruch, no?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Enjoy with the mishpacha. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Shkoyach. Okay. Good Woche.
Vach.
Good Woche. Sag es.